Hi, I'm Scott Humphrey, CEO of the World Floor Covering Association, and this is Leadership Live. What's holding you back? If you remember our presentation last week, we talked about what's keeping you from achieving your goals, your dreams, and your desires. And the illustration I shared at the end made it very clear that what's holding you back most likely is, well, you. The challenge is we don't know how to deal with ourselves. And the illustration made it very clear that until you get the person put back together, you can't put the world in place. And so you may be asking, well, what is it about me I need to change? And the reality is I can't answer that question for you. I'm not a psychologist, but I can tell you it takes some deep thinking. It takes some introspection and asking some tough questions and being willing to give yourself some tough answers. I can be open and honest with you and tell you that in my own life, typically when I'm not making the change that's necessary, it's because of one of two reasons. The first is there's something faulty in my belief system. I don't believe things are doable. I've gotten negative. I've gotten satisfied or stagnant. The second is that oftentimes I hang on to things that I shouldn't. And those things begin to be an anchor on me. I become what I consider to be a lifelong hoarder. It's people who live in their past and they let the things of their past bind them rather than being what they can be today and looking toward the future. So these are two different topics. I want to talk to you today about your belief system and believing what's possible. I had the privilege of spending some time with Zig Ziglar years ago, and I remember one of the illustrations he shared was what he called flea training. And he said if you take fleas, like you find on a dog or a cat, and put them in a jar and put the lid on, they will jump up against the lid of that jar over and over again for about 3 minutes. And after that, if you take the lid off the jar, they'll never jump out because in their mind, the lid is still there. Is it possible that somewhere in your past you tried something and it didn't work, you tried it again, it didn't work, and so you just quit trying because you believe the lid is there? But the world around you has changed, and so I challenge you, don't be bound by your past experiences. There's a story that's told of a gentleman who had a very high IQ, but he just kind of was socially backward. You've met people like that. He decided to join the military, but they were afraid to give him a gun, and so they gave him a broom handle. And he said, what do I do with this? And they said, well, you just go bangity bang bang. And he said, does it work? They lined up a few people. He went bangity bang bang. They fell and acted like they'd been hit. And he goes, well, that's great. So a couple of weeks later, they're handing out bayonets to go on the end of everybody else's rifle, and they don't want to give him anything sharp. So they take a piece of string and dip it in glue, and then they tie it to the end of his broom handle. He says, what do I do with that? They said, well, you go stabbity stab stab. And he said, well, does that work? And he said, oh, yeah, it works wonderful. They lined up some people. He went stabbity stab stab. They fell and acted like they were hurt, and he thought, this is great. Well, by some quirk of the government, he got out in an actual battle. He's down the foxhole. They keep pushing him down. But eventually he jumps up and he starts going bangity bang bang. And people start falling all over the place. I don't know if they think they've been hit or they're having heart attacks or what, but bangity bang bang, stabbity stab stab. And people are falling left and right. His people are coming up behind him now, and he's giving them some courage. Bangity bang bang, stabbity stab stab. The enemy is falling everywhere you can imagine. Bangity bang. He wakes up in the hospital the next day, and the doctor says, son, what you did out there was amazing. It was brave. But it doesn't look like you're going to make it. And we just want to know, what's the last thing you remember? He said, well, the last thing I remember is some guy rolling over the top of me going, tankety tank tank, tankety tank tank. Listen, the level of your belief, to some degree, will determine the level of your success. Maybe seen most vividly in Harry Houdini, the great magician. Harry Houdini had a running challenge he would do with every community he went into to perform, where he would say, you can't hold me in your jail. Your jail cell will not hold me. And they would lock him up, and they would go back out front, and they would wait. And usually within 15 to 30 minutes, he was out. He had picked his way out of that lock. It happened all around the world. He finally went to a jail in Scotland, I'm told, and they had a new jail system, a very heavy door. And when they pushed that door shut, they had Harry Houdini inside, and all the dignitaries waited outside. He, in his belt, had kept a little pick piece that he would use to try to turn the tumblers in the lock, and he would hear them click. But nothing was making anything click, and he's getting more and more and more frustrated by this. 30 minutes goes by, an hour, and then he begins to get embarrassed, which creates even more frustration. Finally, in desperation, he knows that he's beat. He just leans forward, and as he does, his head hits the door, and the door pushes open. Because the door was never locked, except in Harry Houdini's mind. I'm wondering what would be possible if we didn't create these barriers that don't exist. If we didn't tell some anybody that it's not doable or that you can't or you won't. Because the truth is, if you believe you can't, you won't. If you believe it's impossible, it probably is, because we create our own reality. So I challenge you in this week's segment to do all you can to believe the right way. Surround yourself with positive thought. Tell yourself positive things. Be around positive people. Because if you want to change the world out there, the change has to begin within. And one of the places, at least with me, that change has to start is in my belief system. Hope this is helpful. Now go out there and lead.